how the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India is tackling emerging food safety challenges. We are delighted to have amidst us Shri G. Kamala Vardhana Rao, Shri Pawan Agarwal, and Shri Asim Choudhary. May I invite our panelists on the stage. Shri G. Kamala Vardhana Rao is currently the Chief Executive Officer of the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. Throughout his distinguished career as an IS officer, he has held a variety of high-profile positions across state and central governments, earning recognition for his leadership in sectors like tourism, public works, and disaster management. Shri Pawan Agarwal is the former CEO of the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, where he oversaw significant reforms that modernized India's food safety system. Under his leadership, FSSAI launched the Eat Right India movement, which promoted healthy, sustainable diets and large-scale food fortification to address micronutrient deficiencies. He served as the Secretary of the Department of Consumer Affairs and Special Secretary to the Government of India, where he spearheaded initiatives such as the National Logistics Policy and the Gati Shakti Master Plan. Shri Agarwal continues to drive impact as a senior advisor to the International Fund for Agricultural Development. Joining them is Shri Asim Choudhary, former director at the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, a highly experienced public relations and strategic planning professional with a career spanning multiple industries, including government regulation and corporate governance. Before his time at FSSAI, he held prominent positions such as Chief General Manager at the National Highways Authority of India, where he worked on legal and arbitration issues related to highway construction and operations. The session will be moderated by Shri Asim Choudhary. I would request you to initiate the discussion, sir. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Once again, my humble submission to Mr. Raghav Chandra to have organized this most relevant and most challenging aspect of the Indian economy, where we have 28 regulators all across industry, and we find that most of the regulators are also relevant, as well as they need to be in sync with the modern thought towards 7 trillion economy. As Mr. Agarwal has been introduced, he has been a CEO. He has a lot of caps on his head, including the Eat Right India. Besides his journey with the Food Authority. Similarly, now we have serving CEO. We are privileged that since morning you are the only serving CEO who could give you the insight of the industry as a regulator. We have one regulator online, but today we are honored to have serving CEO, and we will take you and guide you to the food safety regime which is happening in the country. जैसा हिंदुस्तान की सभ्यता में कहा गया, जैसा खाना वैसा होए मन, जैसा पानी वैसी वाणी. So Indian cultural scenario has started from the historical perspective of nutritious and wholesome food. And nutritious and wholesome food has been the forte, the modern packaging industry which has evolved 20 years hence. It used to be morning and evening, every time fresh food. And we heard the least of the diseases, whether it is foodborne or waterborne or whatever. So the entire ills of packaging industry has been converted into foodborne type of illnesses, different type of lifestyle related disorder, non-communicable disorders. All these have over 20-30 years have taken over the food in a more, let us say, it is rather some choices more of a danger. So before we move over to the serving CEO Saab, so for the purpose of audience, let me completely take you to the Millennium Development Goals when the UN started, and which were further glided into the Sustainable Development Goal. all the three SDGs 2, 3 and 4 were primarily focused on health. The food safety was certainly an outcome of that, but primarily the whole global fraternity focused more on health. And from the health emerged the food safety. Now, in few countries, for instance, in Vietnam, the national aspirations were on food safety were much higher than governance and health. 2050, there was a resolution in Vietnam in which the entire population sort of resolved that the food safety gets priority over governance. So that's how the food safety has taken a prominence globally. I would not like to interfere in the present regulatory system, but my submission to the CEO Saab, Mr. Rao, would be Indian regulatory mechanism has still to come of age, especially reference to novel food and nutraceuticals. Ayush has recently been, tagged along. I don't know whether it is tagged along. CEO Saab will enlighten us about. A special emphasis is on adolescents, children, girl, as in India is a young country, and with an agenda of 7 trillion economy over next 25 years, safe and wholesome food becomes a national policy. And national policy, to what extent, I would now request Mr. Rao to please offer his comments and take us towards this.
Thank you so much, Choudhary Ji. Respected Rajiv Bhushan sir, Pawan sir, and I'm extremely thankful to Raghav Chandra sir for giving me this opportunity of sharing few thoughts about the regulatory aspect of Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, and especially when you have taken up the subject of nutraceuticals and the regulations related to the nutraceuticals and Ayush. The novel food which you have raised, this is certainly, it falls into the present, the significance of how it is being evolved internationally. So as all of you know, that the systems which are developed in Food Safety Authority is extremely democratic in nature, while evolving, whether it is on the Ayush or whether it is novel food or it is nutraceuticals. It is so democratic that initially we take inputs from the industry, and we have the scientific panels. As everybody knows, we have 21 scientific panels and 6 expert committees are there. So what we do is, we give opportunity to the entire industry and all the stakeholders, and after that we place it before the scientific committee, and after that in authority chaired by the chairman of Food Authority, then it goes to the ministry. And after once the ministry decides, then we give a draft notification, and we give 60 days of time for everybody to respond on that. Then again it gets into the scientific panel, again it gets into the Food Authority and the ministry, then final notification is given. So if you take European, it is placed before the Parliament, European Parliament, for the final approval. So in this system, what happens is, we don't miss out many points. Coming to nutraceuticals, we have formulated policies and we have given the declaration, the notification is already out, but again some points are coming, whether it is prebiotic or the probiotic, and various averages on that, and what are the limits to be included that, whether it is to be enhanced and all. So industry keeps on coming out with some kind of amendments, Then government has constituted recently last year a committee headed by the health secretary with pharma secretary and food processing secretary, CEO FSSAI. Then Ayush secretary is also included in that, and just last week we have submitted a report to the government after deliberating exhaustively, involving the industry to make certain changes, which nutraceuticals wanted, nutraceutical industry wanted, and even Indian Pharmaceutical Association also wanted certain changes in this. So we wanted to bring these changes. So it is an evolving process, nutraceutical thing. Ayush thing, yes, Ayush Ahar, we have released this, we have given the notification for Ayush Ahar. we are not finding much difficulties on that, but the food which is getting into the geriatric, most of the Ayurveda food is getting by elderly people are using it, and we need to address their concerns also. There are certain doubts, and we are planning to have an MOU with Ayush Ministry to address these challenges. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. As the CEO of the FSSAI, I would request CEO Saab to please enlighten us about how FSSAI visualizes 10 years hence to provide safe and suitable food and prevent foodborne illnesses. How they can help prevent consumer from risk of health-related condition, just like allergies and so on and so forth. So besides, because the whole issue is that food is there on your palate, but there is a question of safety. So where is the policy intervention? Where is the regulatory setup, in whether it is in place in terms of surveillance, in terms of traceability? These are very important issues for a common man to understand. Please, sir.
Well, the question is simple, but you can have 10 to 15 PhDs on when you give the reply to this. It is because when you say foodborne illness, it is a wider concept, and you have former health secretary sitting here. He will be a better person to enlighten, because he has dealt with almost all the aspects of the health related issues. But since you are mentioning about the foodborne thing, and of course, 60 to 65% of the diseases are waterborne diseases. Foodborne, I'm liking the word that foodborne illness. Now, where is the food coming from? The food is coming from agriculture, right? 90% comes from agriculture, other than the non-veg, the meat and meat products, and fish products. So the pesticides have become a very big menace. Now, I just taken one example, because I don't want to talk in line of PhD and all, but simply saying that when we conduct surveillance exercises throughout the country, whether it is on the milk, whether it is on tea or the coffee, these quality aspects, when you are checking, we are finding that pesticide is a big menace, because entire our dining table, we have 70% vegetables on us, fruits on us. So what kind of foods coming into our food systems? So this has CIBRC, the Insecticide Board Registration Committee, they have certified 302 pesticides in this country. But when you go there, when we conducted the surveillance, we have checked. I'm giving an example of only tea. We have seen almost 30 to 35% of the tea has more MRLs, the maximum residual limits, than the limits set by us and the limits set by Codex Alimentarius Commission. So it is really disturbing for us. Then we have placed it before the tea board, the chairman in Kolkata, called the entire industry there. We called the entire industry, have shown them. See what is happening. So what is happening is the pesticides, one thing is that excessive usage of pesticide. The farmers are not aware of how much pesticides to be used. You can extrapolate to other vegetables also. I'm just giving an example of tea, because we have not conducted a survey on vegetables. This is what we have conducted. Then one is that excessive usage of pesticide. The other is off-label pesticides. That is the pesticide which is approved for wheat, but it is not approved for tea. So similar kind of that off-label pesticides are there. And third category is duplicate pesticides. Duplicate pesticides are dumped hugely in this country. Most of them are coming from China. So why the farmer wants to get into this duplicate? Because 300 rupees, whereas the original pesticide is 700 rupees. So we thought that we must do something on this, and we have address this issue with all the state governments, and we are forming, there is of course a national level pesticide residue monitoring system, monitoring committee in Ministry of Agriculture, but we would like to enhance the scope of this, and we have requested health ministry also. There is likelihood of having a national level committee under the chairmanship of the health secretary, where there's a national level monitoring regularly happens on the pesticide levels. At the state level also, we require committees where health secretary is there, agriculture secretary is there, because pesticides are controlled by the state governments. So state governments' active involvement is very much essential as far as the pesticides are concerned, because, and second point is about the heavy metals. So whether it is arsenic or mercury or lead. So these are the things which gets into from the soil. All of you know that, wherever they have leather industries are extensively present, or other effluents are coming out where STPs are not there, they get into the aquifers and get into the vegetables and come onto the table. So this is one where we have to take the state government's involvement is very, very important. The scientific community also at the state level also needs to be involved, and many NGOs are functioning, working on this food safety aspect to deal with heavy metals and particularly lead. In fact, at national level, there was a national level conference held at Delhi on this lead issue. So the other point is about the ultra processed food, the foodborne illness. So they have manufactured food, you have cooked food. So people are advocating that we should have cooked food instead of manufactured food, but fortunately or unfortunately, it is most of the food that we are eating now is a manufactured food in the form of ultra processed food, and most of the diseases, what the doctor community is saying, that it is coming from this packaged food which is getting into the industrial processes, and a lot of added sugars are there. So HFSS, the high fat salt sugar, saying if you deal with that, so foodborne illness may be reduced. So high fat salt sugars, if we are trying to advocate that, every industry, when they come to us, we tell them, why are you adding 40% sugar in a biscuit? 20 years back, biscuit taste was different. Now the biscuits are very tasty. So much of sweet is added. So we are trying to convince them to reduce, to give something to the next generation.
Thank you very much, sir. Now we're talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, where the UN aims to everyone has access to safe and nutritious food. This is UN's aim. When you talk of safe, CEO Saab has given you a little bit insights. Now come to the nutrition part. We have Mr. Pawan Agarwal, who has championed that Eat Right India, eat safe, eat healthy, eat sustainable, Sahi Bhojan, Behtar Jeevan. So I would request Mr. Agarwal to focus on nutrition, which is a very important issue, and he has done a lot of work in a couple of years on nutrition part of it. Please, sir.
Thank you, Asim. He never worked with me, but I had an occasion of speaking to him yesterday. I found he's a very sharp officer, and our bargain was the difficult questions he'll ask the current CEO. He'll ask the simpler questions to me. So I had this fortune of being the CEO of the Food Authority for the longest period of time, more than 4 years. But having left FSSAI, I've spent more than that period. So there is enough time for me to forget what I did during those 4 years. So pardon my ignorance of what happened in those times and what is currently happening. But when you reflect on some of these things about food safety and nutrition in a little longer term perspective, you would see that the Food Safety Act 2006 brought in a new paradigm around food safety. Before that, it was Prevention of Food Adulteration Act. And with that paradigm, obviously a new body takes a while to be on its own. And I was very fortunate, even though I was there from 2016 to 2020, but they were in some sense formative years of the Food Authority. And when I had joined the organization, it was almost unknown entity, public entity. I had never heard of FSSAI. And when I was posted there, I called up the establishment officer, Rajiv Kumar, who became the chief election commissioner. I called him, so he belongs to the same areas. Rajiv sir, क्या कर दिया आपने, कहाँ भेज दिया मुझे? कहने कहीं अच्छी जगह जाना चाहते हो क्या? मैं कहा हाँ सर. कहने वो मेंबर यूपीएससी की भी एक जगह खाली है, वहाँ भेज देता हूँ मैं. So in protest, I didn't know which one to choose. Of course, I don't think I had a choice. So I went on a leave immediately after I got my orders, and it was pre-planned, So went to Ranthambore, and on my way back, I was looking at food restaurants and all that. And this FSSAI was written all over the place. This is the first time I noticed that there is something called FSSAI. I said, it must be something important. All the food packets have it. So that is when I came back and realized that FSSAI is a very important body. And I still remember, without knowing ABCD about FSSAI, I had to address everyone. That was 2nd of January when I came back from a holiday. So I had to address 150 people in our conference room. So I didn't know what to say. So I said, all right, we are here. And that was immediately after the Maggie controversy. So that rightly or wrongly, we are not getting into the entire issue of Maggie and what happened with Nestle. So we're not getting into it. But one silver lining I see is that because of that thing, lot more people know about FSSAI than they used to know earlier. And therefore, why not use this opportunity to create visibility, continued visibility of the organization, and bring to it the credibility that is expected of an organization like FSSAI in public eyes. I'm very happy that today, it is a fairly, well-known body. I think the best barometer for that is how many officers want to join there. And I was told that for chairperson FSSAI, there have been 62 applications, and the number is continuously rising. So I think it is a fairly well-known body. But the problem, at least through the media as one sees, whether it has come down or gone up is not known. Because you see issues of adulteration, issues concerning food safety, as often as you used to see, maybe much less in those times than what you are seeing today. Social media. I think it is evolution of society in some sense. We are now becoming more sensitive about the safety of the food that we are eating, and therefore people are more concerned about it. Now, my bargain with him was that you ask me any question, I have the answer with me written. Okay, so I'll answer the same thing. So what I'm basically trying to point out is that the first 5-6 years were the formative years when things were in place. And during my time itself, we had earlier had a food licensing and registration system, FLRS. As the name suggests, focus was only on licensing and registration. What happens after you get that number, and Mr. Dharmadhikari was asking me that all the food packets have this number, are you sure that this is safe to eat? So I did not have a very good answer. I did not have a good answer then. I still do not have a good answer, because there is absolutely no way that a few thousand officers in FSSAI and maybe additional a few thousand in the state governments can take care of all the food that is produced by lakhs of businesses or crores of small businesses across the country on day-to-day basis, eaten by our people, is safe to eat. And all that effort is, while we have a regulatory body and they're expected to do certain functions and they're doing it well, I think in terms of what FSSAI has been able to accomplish, it has exponentially increased with passage of time, whether it is in terms of testing, compliances, surveillance. But expectation that these numbers will go down to zero is unreal. I think for that to happen, if we continue to focus on compliances, what might happen is that there may be unintentional rise in corruption cases. Because food safety, one of the colleagues when I joined the organization told me that you are getting into a very corrupt organization. And that corruption was not really related to the FSSAI itself, but FSSAI also oversees, directly or indirectly, the food safety administrations in the states. And the food safety administration in the states differs from state to state, are not really considered to be very pious organizations. So given that, if there is too much of a focus on compliances, the intentional consequence of that will be rise in issues of corruption. And therefore, moving forward, what could be the goal for the food safety in India? I'm calling it food safety 101, the formative years. Food safety 2.0 is 2.0 is when we basically went into the compliance testing mode, and food safety 3.0 is about building a culture of food safety. Unless all our food businesses, small or big, they create and develop a culture of food safety. And incidentally, when I was talking about food safety in some international fora, they said it has been codified by European Union. They have codified what food safety culture is about. So if we are able to shift from current compliance and testing mode to building a culture of food safety, then I'm sure, Mr. Dharamadkari, your question can be answered. Then we can be more confident that the food that we are getting in the marketplace is safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank
So
you.
I will just add something to the question that you have raised about this food nutritional aspect of it.
Yes.
So this is very interesting. There is an interesting report which has come from Indian Council for Agriculture Research. So this ICAR report says that before the introduction of the high yielding varieties, 1969. Then whatever cultivation, whether wheat or rice, which was being cultivated before 1969, the introduction of the Green Revolution and other things. So this particular report says that the micronutrients in wheat and rice and other crops in this country, they had more than 35 to 37% of more micronutrients, whether it is vitamins or B12, and other micronutrients are much higher than. So what the report says, ICAR report says that whether we have compromised food security for the nutritional security. So we wanted to grow more. So in the process, we introduced high yielding varieties by tinkering with the DNA of the wheat and the rice. This is what the ICAR report says. You can download that. So addressing this, now recently I've seen Honorable Prime Minister has released 109 varieties of crop seeds were released. The high yielding varieties were released, which has not only pest resistant, not only high yielding variety, not only pest resistant, but also it is fortified. It is fortified with the proteins. It is fortified with vitamins. So this fortification is already there to increase the nutritious value of whatever we are consuming now. So whatever the one RDA, the National Institute of Nutrition, which says that one recommended dietary allowance. So how do you get this one RDA into this? Consumer Affairs Ministry, all of you know that it has issued orders that all children of the school should have folic acid and iron and B12. So now it is fortified. Iron is fortified with the iron. So the rice is fortified. FSSAI has allowed, it made it voluntary that fortification of milk, fortification of oils is allowed, but mandatory is rice. Now 530,000 ration shops, now fortified rice is available. That's how the nutritional security is being addressed by this country now.
So thank you very much. I have in the earlier session in the morning, especially electricity regulation, they have one CERC and 28 SERCs. Now same model is being followed by the food. You have one FSSAI CO sitting in Delhi, and you have Food Safety Commissioner sitting all across the country. From the regulator's viewpoint, from the regulations viewpoint, where is the gap you are seeing? Because I was reading Maharashtra FDA is very proactive. Assam is not. Bengal is not. Some Gujarat is very proactive. So where is the gap between both the regulatory setup? Are you feeling anything? You need to change the regulation, you need to be more stronger. Where is the gap between the regulations, though regulations are the same? Where is the catch and where is the latch between regulations at Delhi and states?
You're asking me or sir?
I'm asking you, sir.
Okay. So regulations are framed at the national level. FSSAI, as sir was mentioned about the FSSAI Act. It is a central act. Then there is no state act. State governments don't formulate any act related to any food item in this country. The Food Safety Act is the only act through which all the regulations emanate, right? So FSSAI Act not only gives the powers to FSSAI for formulation or enactment of regulations, but also enforcement, unlike USFDA. So we also enforce. So we enforce through the state governments. The state food safety commissioners are our arms. Then, as you rightly said, yes, some state governments are working well, some state governments don't respond. We have Central Advisory Committee, where all the food safety commissioners are the members. So these we once in 3 months, as per the Act, we meet once in 3 months. So majority of the times, not every food safety commissioner, only 50% of the presence I see. So in the state governments also, they have to sensitize. Chief Secretary, we keep on writing to the chief secretaries. The moment an IAS officer or non-IAS officer, it can be IPS officer, posted as a food safety commissioner, mostly the food safety commissioner post is an additional charge for some other, he must be holding another substantive post position. Then he'll be holding additional charge of food safety. So every time this IAS officer or IPS officer wants to get out of this position, to go to commerce, to go to finance, to go to tourism or something else. So your observation is absolutely right. Wherever food safety commissioners are functioning, the enforcement is very good. The surveillance is very good. The enforcement samplings are very good. They visit the labs regularly on regular basis. Nowadays I see good states. Gujarat is doing good. Telangana is doing good. That's why we have state food safety index was introduced in 2019. We give ranks to every state depending on the various parameters, which includes about how many training programs they are conducting, how many labs they are visiting, so how many the positions of food safety officers are vacant in many of the states. I am not taking the names, but many state government, the food safety officers' positions are still vacant. It's not filled up. So yes, we keep on trying to reach out to the state governments and try to tell them to be more proactive.
So thank you.
Can I add to what Mr.
I was taking you to nutrition because you.
No, nutrition पर आ जाएंगे यार. I think this problem that different states behave differently obviously is a function of officers in respective states. But to address this problem, one of the instruments that we thought of was the food safety index, which has helped a little bit. But what we have also did was creating manuals, because legislation, the law and regulations can only cover as much. But how a food safety officer on the ground level will function in a certain circumstance, if we codify it a little bit further, it is helpful. Therefore, food safety manual for food safety officers, they were all created to ensure that similar kind of regulatory responses are received across the states. So these are various ways, but obviously these problems persist.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Actually, what is happening is since morning, when I was sitting in the audience, except one or two sectors, mental health, as the industrial development takes place, the pressures of family, the pressures of work, the pressures of type of food, because nutrition, which strikes at the base of mental health. So where does the food authority has played a role to ensure that the mental health related to the foods which they are regulating do they have any plan, or do they have any system where they assess the mental health, especially adolescents and ladies? That's a very important issue.
We don't deal with that.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, last before we go to question answers, where do we find, because food, we may not travel every day, civil aviation, we may not, for instance, go to NCLT, or some people don't even go to stock market. So but everybody is eating 2 meals a day. So food, from whether it is farm to fork or farm to palate, is very important. So this audience is, I'm sure, very much aware about where lies the catch, why we are not getting nutritious food, why Prime Minister has to launch a portion, why Prime Minister has to himself, the Prime Minister is the Prime Minister, why the PM has to intervene and say that the food has to be fortified. Like 5 years back, Prime Minister started the fortification of urea by neem. So what I'm trying to say is that that there is a small requirement of food safety regime to see into it. So that's, thank you very much, Mr. Agarwal and Mr. Rao. I would like to take one or two questions before we close this session.
Apart from pesticides and heavy metals, one more area has come, that is the nanoplastic. So how it is coming to the circulation, the food items?
Yeah, this is very interesting. There is one World Bank report also, and there is which speaks about this nanoplastics getting into this. Microplastics and nanoplastics, and it is there in the air also. It comes from atmosphere also, and need not be necessarily from the food, right? So excess usage of plastics, if the society tries to go towards, see, that is the reason why we are encouraging the industry to go for non-plastic packaging. So packaging is a huge industry here. So we are trying to develop alternative technologies in the food packaging, non-plastic based technologies like biodegradable technologies. Yeah.
Thank you very
So
much,
much.
the audience.